Hi there, it's Sarah from Inspired Tarot. So today I thought I'd have a go at doing a live reading, see what comes out. Okay, the first card out is the Eight of Swords, the Three of Pentacles, the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the Three of Swords. Wow, so we have an interesting mix of cards here. Some very positive cards with the Queen of Wands. I mean, all cards are positive, to be fair. Even the negative cards. The ego looks at the negative cards and thinks, oh no, something's going wrong. But quite often is the case. We know that we can't judge our advances from our retreats, and when we think things are going wrong, it's really that they're just going wrong for the ego. They're just going wrong for the separate self, and we're trying to undo the separate self. So when we see these more difficult and challenging cards in a reading, it's actually quite exciting. And I think if we can really look at the cards that way, then it's very helpful. I know as I've gone on my spiritual journey, I get more and more confident at not being fazed by the difficult things, not being frightened of your feelings. I know this is something that I struggled with for a long time. I would feel uncomfortable feelings and I would feel like I was doing something wrong. And as you release guilt, I think you do feel as though the uncomfortable feelings coming up and these darker cards, darker states of mind are actually coming up to help us, not to hinder us, not to shame us. And the better we can handle these darker cards coming up, then the better it is for our healing. And really there's nothing going wrong, and there's nothing wrong with any of these different feeling states. We all really want to feel love all the time, but love is kind of complete acceptance of what is. Love is a very difficult thing to explain. It's very abstract, but to me it's acceptance of what is. It's also a feeling, of course, but yeah, love is, from an ego point of view, love can be very painful. Unconditional love can be painful, to accept everything, even things that seem unpleasant, just understanding that we're misinterpreting them. So love from the Spirit's perspective is to understand that none of this world is real and that we're not really here. And everything that's happening to us is happening to us for our good. And yeah, we can just be grateful. We can flip the script on the ego and we can see everything in a positive light. We can see that everything is harmonious in the world, even when it doesn't appear to be. Everyone's having the lessons that they need in order to grow and expand. Yeah, and if we just reinterpret things, I know one of the things that I've talked about in the past is in some cultures they mourn birth and celebrate death, and then in other cultures like my own, they mourn death and celebrate birth. But we know from A Course in Miracles that it's all, anything physical is neutral and meaningless. And if it did have inherent meaning, then it would be the same meaning for everybody. But because everybody experiences different meanings and things, then we have to come to the conclusion, or the Spirit teaches us that to come to the conclusion that everything is neutral, and therefore everything can be used to help us heal. So the ego likes to use some what we call challenging life experiences to wind us further and further into the illusion, to wind us more into hating other people and struggling, and just feeling like the world is an obstacle course from hell, whereas the Spirit will use our interpretation of these events to heal us. And the healing journey is very mysterious, as I've mentioned before. You know, I don't really understand how I've healed. The Spirit obviously knows the things that will push my buttons and my triggers. And someone was asking me the other day, you know, how can I heal without going through pain? You know, how can we go through healing in a very gentle way? But the truth is that the route to healing is through the pain and through the triggers. And it's really just to see the pain and see the triggers as growth rather than a problem. So for sure. So we can see here with the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Cups that we have mastery in the suit of creativity and emotions. And the Queen of Wands is very much to do with our divine purpose. The Queen of Wands is usually very sociable. and loving, and very inspiring, very kind of has a magical quality, and is just a very exciting person, maybe an influencer or something like that. It's definitely could even be a spiritual teacher. With the Queen of Cups combined together, these two could be very kind of on the leading edge, but also very creative and very loving. So yeah, they could be spiritual leaders or something like that. The Three of Pentacles is all about working harmoniously as a team. So they could have created a community where people are working together, people are communicating. These people all look quite relaxed, as if they're having fun and they're working on something together. So one of the nice things about the Three of Pentacles is that everyone is seen as an equal, and people contribute what they have to contribute, and people are encouraged to be more of their authentic selves, because the more authentic we can be, the more of our divine nature comes through. When we struggle to be authentic, it's because we don't feel good enough and we hide parts of ourselves, but quite often we hide parts of our light shadow, which is our own positive qualities. Because we have such a fear of love and a fear of the light, we tend to feel shame about feeling whole or feeling abundant. The ego does have us thinking about the world very much upside down. And we can see here with the Three of Swords and the Eight of Swords cards that we can be very much stuck in this victim mentality and heartbreak, and need to do a lot of shadow work to work on ourselves. I know with the Eight of Swords, the card of feeling victimized, it's not a pleasant place to be in, but if we never felt these feelings, then we would never be growing. And the whole point of the spiritual journey is to move us out of our limiting beliefs, and to get us, the spirit is always wanting us to look at our emotions, and uses tarot and videos and anything, movies, anything in our normal life, any conversations that we have with each other. The spirit uses them to trigger and flush up things in the mind for us to look at. And as I've said before, I never really quite understand how the healing happens. It's very mysterious, and we can't really understand it from our linear perspective. I know when I've tried to heal things in the past, it hasn't really worked, because we always try and heal ourselves from a very limited perspective. We want to manifest things we want to manifest, but quite often we want to manifest them because we want to avoid our triggers, or we want someone else or something else to be a crutch for us, which is really antithetical to the spiritual journey. But the spirit can use our whims and our interests to help us wake up. So really we need to attune to the spirit more and more. And it's just so helpful that we have the spirit in our minds to help us with things that we get stuck with. We can always ask, we can always pray or ask, depending on how you want to think of it. If you're not religious, you don't need to be religious to make spiritual progress, because spirituality really is all about being kind, being loving, being all-inclusive and forgiving. So many of the things about the spiritual path are non-denominational for sure, and that's one of the things that I like about A Course in Miracles. Even though it's based on Christian symbolism, it's a very all-inclusive teaching. I particularly love the teacher Gary Renard and his book The Disappearance of the Universe. So he talks in terms of God, but it's very concise, very generalized teachings, all about love, forgiveness, kindness, and things that everybody can understand. We all have love at our core. That's our common denominator, and that's what we're aiming for. But the ego always has us going towards love in a very confused and convoluted way. So the spirit is here to help us reinterpret everything that happens to us. Right, so let's pull some more cards, see what else comes out. We've got the Two of Cups, the Ace of Cups, the Page of Pentacles, the Five of Wands, let's go for one more, and the Death and Rebirth. Wow, it's very dramatic today, everything that's going on. So the Two of Cups is all about loving partnership. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can just be any kind of connection. Could be a relationship we have with our child or our parent or a colleague or a random person on the street. Any relationship is, or any connection is always an opportunity for what A Course in Miracles refers to as a holy relationship or a holy instant, where we're always looking to leave someone better than we found them. We're always looking to have fun with people and to connect with them. Quite often when we go through life, the ego is looking to always find an issue with someone and put them down, and we're supposed to be better. We need to show them that we're better. And it's such a alienating way to think. So I like to go through the world now thinking about how I can interact with people, how I can love people and have fun with them and get on the same wavelength of them. Or if they're on a negative wavelength, how I can change it and pull them into a happier state of mind just by being light in the way I think. We have so much guilt in the mind, and the spirit is always trying to lighten us up all the time. So with the Five of Wands, this is a excuse me, a card of conflict. But one of the things I like about conflict and competition is that it's a necessary stage when we're going through growth. If we didn't have this conflict, then we would never grow. And I noticed this on my own spiritual path, that I have things that seem challenging and difficult, because I know in A Course in Miracles it says that the ego's term for resistance is that it's a problem and that we're stuck, whereas the spirit's interpretation of resistance is that it's progress and growth. And it also says in the Course that we can't judge our advances from our retreats. And I love that. So quite often I'll tell myself when I think I'm going backwards that I'm probably going forwards. Whenever we're meeting resistance, as long as we're going through it with love, then we're usually going in the right direction. So the Page of Wands is very much an innovator, very enthusiastic and creative, can often be lively and rebellious. So I think just sounds very free-spirited. And the Ace of Cups is all about new beginnings and emotional growth. So yeah, from a spiritual perspective, it's just being open and inspired to anything new that comes in. The spirit is always going to bring us new experiences and things in, which are fun. Some of the things that have happened to me in the last year are just unbelievable. I've been through like a hermity phase before that, and then I feel like I've had lots of interesting things happen to me this year. And when you're open to the spirit to bring in miracles and new people and new experiences, and you kind of expand and stretch out of your comfort zone, then it's amazing the kind of things that will come to you. And these things automatically bring a death and rebirth. So the death card can seem quite scary, and I know at certain times when something comes to an end, particularly if we're attached to it, it can feel painful. But always, once we've processed the difficult emotions, on the other side of that experience is a leveling up in consciousness. We always notice that our self-concept has shifted, and every time our self-concept does shift, it can feel extremely uncomfortable. Because we know that the body is essentially held together by a bunch of concepts in the mind. So it does say in the Course that the body is either anticipated or remembered, and that it doesn't really exist at all. So when we change our beliefs, our experience changes, the health of our body changes, everything changes. And we can feel very destabilized as we go through this process, but that's what it's all about. The spiritual journey is getting used to the ebb and flow, getting used to the fact that we're always leveling up and growing, and we can face everything that comes to us as long as we are aligned with the spirit, and we keep our mind on the prize, which is to wake up. We always think that it's about things in form, achieving things in form, and yeah, it's nice to attain things in form and interact with the physical world, but we have to remember not to be too attached to it, and to predominantly be attached to healing and purifying the mind, because that's where the happiness truly is. So yeah, that's it for this reading, I think, for today. It was a good one. It felt inspiring to read. I love you all. I'll see you again soon. Bye.